Hey kids, welcome back. It is college football time, week 7 of the season, and therefore week 7 of the Carla and Crappy show. I'm Crappy. Hello. That's Carla. Hi, Carla.
I guess that makes me Carla then. Hi.
That would make you Carla. I had an awesome time in Columbus last weekend. First game since the first live game since the opening of the season. We did the blackout thing pretty well. And that felt like an actual test for Ohio State, so that was a good thing too. Besides that, I didn't get a chance to watch a ton, although there was a lot of stuff we were following. I know you said I don't know how much you were going to be able to watch last weekend, but did you have anything that really struck you?
Yeah, I was at that wedding all weekend. It was great, and they're married and off on their honeymoon, so that's good. Yeah. So I didn't see a ton. Although, it was October, it's first weekend in October, and it was still 90 degrees outside. The biggest challenge I had was trying to keep the bride cool, because she was, in her dress all day, and it was 90 degrees, and how do you keep the bride from sweating? So that was fun. But it was a beautiful wedding, and everything went off great. Excellent. But yeah, it's finally fall in Nashville now, which is a nice thing. I've switched over to cider because it's
very good.
Our high was like 70 today. It was great, 70 and sunny, and it's just like, thank God. But yeah, so football wise, I'm excited about this week because like finally we get some fall weather. My in-laws are coming. I'm paying homage to them with the Moonrise Brewing Glass, which is from Palm Coast, which is their my father-in-law is a regular there apparently.
Nice. Okay.
So that's the reason for this class. And they're actually on their way here. So that'll be fun to have them here.
You get to watch Florida LSU with them?
We'll get to watch Florida LSU with them. Yes. So that'll be fun. My husband's a UF grad, so we'll talk more about that. When we get to that game. But so I didn't see a ton of football last week, but it was funny. I went back and listened to last week's show as I was prepping for this week's show, just to kind of refresh myself as to what I said last week. And I said, and I'm very proud of myself. Can I pat myself on the back?
Please, yes.
So I said, like in passing at the end of the show last week, that there was a distinct possibility that the Stanford postulate could come into play last week. Because Stanford was playing Washington. And hey, guess what? For the first time ever, I was right on the Stanford postulate. Which means it might be null and void now, right?
I don't know.
Also the Stanford postulate, because Stanford won a game it shouldn't have won, but I said that was a distinct possibility. So have we entered the space-time continuum?
Oh man, this was going to be such an easy show, Carla. I'm so confused.
Me too.
Okay.
Ask the Stanford band.
I am okay. I mean, I have in my notes. That was the thing. The Stanford postulate. In a broad sense, it's alive because they did the opposite of what we expected them to do. But then you made that prediction, and now I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what this is. Maybe someone with a philosophy major can help us out with.
Or a logic major.
Oh God, that is certainly not me. That is not my specialty.
Have fun in the college classroom. Ask your students, what is blue?
Oh God. Are you one of those professors? Is that you?
I did that. Yeah. Uh-oh. We were talking about social constructs of reality. Being a college professor can be fun at times, and we were talking about social constructs of reality, and we started falling down that rabbit hole, and how everybody sees and thinks things differently, and like, how do I know that my blue is the same as your blue? Like, I don't. And so then we got into what is blue anyway? How do you describe it? You can't, so yeah, that's fun. So what is blue? What is the Stanford postulate? I'm not sure at this point, but hey, I was right.
Okay.
And also AJ was right. I must give him credit. The UC-UCF game was ridiculously fun on Friday night. I caught the end of that game after coming home from rehearsal dinner, and that was one of the better games of the weekend.
Nice.
Definitely worth watching. UC came, held on and got the win there, which is big for the American Conference. And I'm sure he'll probably get into that. They've got another big game this week too. So those are my two things. Stanford did the Stanford thing, and the American was ridiculously fun on Friday.
Okay, those are both legit things. What blue means to me is Michigan, and because we've mentioned them a lot, I wanted to point out that Michigan's defense was lights out on Saturday against Iowa, holding them to a field goal. They looked terrific. That on that side of the ball, I mean, it kind of looked like Michigan was living up to expectations. Jimmy said, I think today, that his offense is just about to hit its stride. And this is the offense. This was week 7, and the offense that was shut out for 3/4 of its most recent game. So I'm not sure what that means. If that is Michigan's offense almost hitting its stride, I'm not going to be too concerned about them for the rest of the season. The other thing I wanted to point out is that and again, we noted this earlier, but I learned on Saturday that Notre Dame can in fact run the football against Bowling Green. So there's that. And then there's the whole Stanford thing, and I don't know. I no longer know what that means. So,
and here's one quick note on Stanford. Yes. I went back and read that game story. The Associated Press described Stanford as having a plodding, methodical offense. They had time of possession by 18 minutes.
Wow.
Over Washington. 18 minutes. Well, so we figured out how to beat Washington. Just don't give them the damn football. Play keep away. That's how you beat Washington. But yeah.
Oh man. Well, yeah, that's yes, you do. Even when there's the Big Ten doesn't even do that anymore. Who does that? No, the Big Ten doesn't do plodding, methodical football.
Maybe
so I don't. Maybe I don't know, but they don't want to. They want to do the upscale, the up-tempo Scott Frost thing, and I don't know where Stanford fits in. This whole thing, we might have to do just an entire show about Stanford. We're close to doing it right now. Before we get to our games, we return you this week, after a bye week for the Tigers, to your weekly Clemsoning Index. Unranked Florida State visits Clemson on Saturday. Carla, what do you think?
Both teams coming off of a bye.
Yes.
So that levels that playing field. Clemson's coming off, its most recent game was that ridiculous scare against North Carolina. That being said, the Florida State defense is still terrible.
Yeah.
Like terrible to the point that they're giving up more yards than they're producing, and they're somehow still 3-2.
Yeah.
But that being said, I've underestimated this before. I'm giving this a 5.5 on the Clemsoning Index. It's Florida State. I think they can do things that they're not supposed to do sometimes, especially in a big rivalry game when they know they can upset things. The fact the game's in Clemson, I feel a little better about this. If this was in Tallahassee, I'd give it a little bit higher, but I'm going to go about a 5.5.
Now I'd have, and this show's just going to be a mess because I have another philosophical thing here. If this were a normal year, could you even consider this being Clemsoning eligible? If Florida State had a normal Florida State team, would you just consider it to be an actual game? Or, I mean, is there a tiny bit of Clemsoning possibility because Florida State's playing on the road? I don't know what the answer to that is. I kind of think if this were a normal year, we're looking at a very, very low Clemsoning index because there's an excellent chance that Florida State would be able to beat Clemson just sort of as a matter of course.
Right. That's a good point.
And I'm going to try to be done with philosophy for the rest of this show. As it is now with Florida State being in the state that it is, besides being in the state of Florida, I will call this Clemsoning index of 4. I think this just the name will have Clemson's attention.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's at home, I think will kind of lower the potential for drama there. AJ, you gave us some excellent options last week. What do you see with the Group 05 this time?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is your Group of Five After Dark Report, brought to you by Sugary Drinks and Cereals. That's not a brand, it's just, fuel. We're going to start with Wednesday, October 9th. Hopefully this show is up by then. If it hasn't, I hope that you, if you didn't watch this game, you go back and watch it. ESPN2, 8 p.m. Eastern, App State at ULL Lafayette. There's only 2 L's in that. But Louisiana playing App State. This is effectively a Sun Belt Championship preview. App State coming in, just wrecking house. They beat UNC in Chapel Hill. ULL looking good. The line on this game is ULL by 1 because they're at home. This should be an incredibly evenly matched game. I highly recommend watching this game. It is the only game on Wednesday night. Put your eyeballs on it. Put some Group of Five in your life. It'll do you good. We're going to move forward to Saturday. Yes, during Fox's Big Nude Saturday, you're getting Oklahoma and Texas. Again, as my role on this show, my role is to tell you to not watch the big fancy game and instead watch a way better game that happens at the same time. This weekend is no different. ESPN2 at noon, Memphis at Temple. Again, one of these potential Group of Five conference championship game previews. Memphis coming in 5-0, coming in hot, ranked 23rd. Temple's 4-1 and not looking bad. Memphis is favored by 5. This is going to be a barn burner. Temple's defense does not play games. Memphis does. Their offense is incredible. Defense has looked a little suspect. What I'm doing is I'm saving you from the Pam Ward memorial slot of Rutgers, Indiana. Do not watch that game. If you watch that game, that's on you. I can't help you with that. We are going to scoot on down the line, right on down. 4 p.m. Eastern. San Jose State at Nevada. San Jose State is the turnaround team of the year. We're not even 6 games into the season. They're the turnaround team of the year. They're 3-2 already. They're 1-1 in the Mountain West, and they beat Arkansas. They are doing amazing things. They're playing a Nevada team that looked kind of good earlier this year and has not looked so good recently. San Jose State could get a big win here in conference play and actually do some damage, which is not something that San Jose State has done at any point recently. And it wouldn't be a Group of Five After Dark report unless I gave you some Group of Five After Dark. Kids, get out the Lucky Charms. Get out your Frosted Flakes. Get all your sugary cereals out because we've got a double header at 10:15. ESPN2, Hawaii travels to Boise. That's 4-1 Hawaii going to 5-0 Boise. Big games in the Mountain West. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that not enough? Because at 10:30 on CBS Sports Network, you've got 4-1 Wyoming against 4-1 San Diego State. Let's go. It's Group of Five. It's Mountain West Showcase weekend. It's the Showcase Showdown, right? Who's going to come out on top? We got a whole lot of things going on. Pac-12 is a absolute mess. Just an absolute mess right now. No one's going to win the Pac-12. They've somehow punted the championship for the Pac-12. The best game for the Pac-12 is probably Washington at Arizona. 4-2 Washington going to 4-1 Arizona. Washington's probably going to whomp Arizona. It's probably not going to be very fun. But stay up late. This is a good week to stay up late. Last week was not a good week to stay up late. This is a great week to stay up late. So I'm going to be drinking some. I'll be drinking some sugary drinks, having all sorts of. I may even have a cup of coffee. Who knows? But this week should be spectacular for Group of Five After Dark. A number of Group of Five games spread throughout the day. You should watch them. Whole lot of AAC action. Follow along with me. You don't have to watch the big games. You don't have to watch Penn State play football or Ohio State play football. It's fine. Ohio State doesn't play anybody this week. Quite literally, they don't play anybody. Penn State is playing some team from Iowa. So go sports in that one. Bye.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your contributions as always. Carla, we begin once again on Big Nude Saturday. Big Nude Saturday, a.k.a. the Elmer Fudd Invitational, a.k.a. the Red River Rivalry. I can't believe I got that. I'm just trying to say Red River. After I've typed it out with the W's, it's just a mess. Number 6, Oklahoma versus number 11, Texas, in the Cotton Bowl. OU is favored by 11. What do you think about the big Elmer Fudd Nude rivalry game?
Somebody call Bugs Bunny. Yeah, right. We went for philosophy to naked Elmer Fudd with Bugs Bunny. Oh God, this show is already off the rails.
Okay.
So and it's finally fall when this game rolls around, right? Like this for me always signals like this is football season, right? We get the big game at the Cotton Bowl, and one of the coolest atmospheres in all of college football. Yeah. Oklahoma is putting up just these absurdly ridiculous offensive numbers this season. 643 yards per game, averaging more than 53 points per game, 355 in the air. That's just absurd. But what we've come to expect from Oklahoma, to an extent, they just had the string of quarterbacks, and Jalen Hurts just is fitting right into that Oklahoma quarterback lineage. Right where he should. The interesting thing is I started looking into this, though, and I wrote down is a surprising thing, or maybe not so much, considering who they hired. But the fact that the Oklahoma defense does seem to have improved a bit after the hiring of Alex Grinch.
A bit.
And we mentioned that after the hiring that, Grinch coming from Ohio State, that maybe Oklahoma was trying to bolster its stance on the national level by hiring a defensive coordinator from a conference that, plays defense, as opposed to the Big 12, which just doesn't.
Which does. It's not.
See Texas, right? Which is part of the logic in this game. Like, Oklahoma has the number 25 scoring defense in the country. Had you told me that going into the season, I would have laughed hysterically.
Right.
So even though they're still giving up a lot of yards, more than a good team would in another conference, say the SEC or the Big 12 or Big 10, excuse me. They're in the top 25 in scoring defense. They're second in the Big 12 behind Baylor. Texas putting up big offensive numbers, not quite as big as Oklahoma is, but I'm going to borrow a phrase from my former editor, Mike Huguenin, from my Rivals days, and say that the Texas defense is rancid, as he would describe it. I didn't do that impersonation justice by any stretch. If you hear him say that, they are 9th in total defense in the conference, barely ahead of Kansas. That's how bad the Texas defense is. They're giving up 325 yards in the air. They can stop the run decently. They're okay at stopping the run, but Oklahoma's leading rusher at this point is Jalen Hurts. Yes. And again, if you have a quarterback that's your leading rusher, you have a rushing problem. There's something not quite right with your offense. So I don't think that's even going to come into play this weekend. And the fact that Oklahoma is reeling after last year, yes, they already got their revenge, but they lost this game last year to Texas. And you've got to believe that they've got that extra chip on their shoulder with Jalen Hurts, and a defense is playing marginally better than it has in years before. I like Oklahoma in this game, but this is going to be a fun one. It always is. So definitely put this one on your radar. Watch it as long as you can stand it with all the scoring. But yeah, I think Oklahoma's going to get its revenge and win the Red River Rivalry in 2019.
Say it again. Red
River Rivalry.
One more time.
Red River Rivalry.
Number 2 was a little shaky, but those were bad. Those were bad. Let's play a game. Okay. Check out these two real brief stat lines and tell me which of these two anonymous quarterbacks is getting Heisman buzz. Okay. Anonymous quarterback number 1, 120 completions, 1,400 plus yards, 17 TDs, 2 interceptions. This is all the season to this point. Anonymous quarterback number 2, 82 completions, 1,500 plus yards, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Got a guess?
I'm guessing the second one is getting the attention because this is a hypothetical game.
It's a hypothetical game. The second one is Jalen Hurts. The guy with more touchdowns is Sam Ehlinger. Mm-hmm. And as I was looking at this, I wanted a jumping off point, and I thought, Jalen Hurts, and obviously he gets the benefit of playing with a program that has given us the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners at his position. But if you're going to look at offense, and because it's the Pac-12 or the Big 12, we should do that.
Yeah.
It is interesting to me that Sam Ehlinger isn't getting the notoriety, and mm-hmm. Maybe that's the difference between 5-0 and 4-1. I'm not sure. Maybe there's still plenty of questions about, is Texas back? Was Texas back? Is Texas back going to be now? So there seems to be some skepticism about what he does, but I think they're pretty much interchangeable, maybe except for the rushing numbers, and some of that is I've read Tom Herman is trying to limit design quarterback rushing plays for Ehlinger because he's such a big part of their offense, and because he's really good, and you don't want to get him hurt, right? Yeah. So. And this boils down to what you're discussing. These are 2 really good offenses. One is a bit better than the other, but if you're looking at this game and trying to make to distinguish the 2 on that side of the ball, it's kind of tough. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that the video game numbers for Oklahoma's offense. The defense, however, as you said, is not the liability that it was. It's not great. Yeah. Last year, giving up 32 points a game versus 19 this year, respectable. And in terms of improvement, like night and day. Hi, Cookie. You gonna come over here? Okay. What are you doing? If you're not watching, I don't know if Carla can see her or not, but there's a cat on my desk. The Sooners have a significantly better resume than Texas, and I think that's going to be a factor in this. Wins over Houston, UCLA, Texas Tech, and they don't have Cattle running around the sidelines or Matthew McConaughey. So I think that's worth a couple extra points there. Oklahoma will not need this. Oklahoma will not need this motivation from last year. The fact that I think they're in a better position defensively is going to make the difference in this game. And the Sooners win the Wed Wivel. Wed River rivalry on Saturday.
That's all, folks.
That's abadi. That's oh man. Our second 2 games. This is if you're an SEC person or a Big Ten person, you need to figure this out before we get into these on Saturday night, or just go buy a second TV. I don't.
Yes.
That might be an option too. At 7:30 on Saturday, Carla's Nittany Lions at number 10 in the country visit Iowa. Number 17 Hawkeyes. Penn State is favored by 4.5. What do you think?
And now for something completely different. Right? I mean, really, if you're going from Oklahoma, Texas to Penn State, Iowa, you're looking at the number 2 and number 3 scoring defense in the country going at each other. Yes. So this is the antithesis of the offensive juggernaut that next week is going to be. I'm going to watch your cat drink your beer.
Hello. Thank you for stopping.
Yeah, Penn State's tougher against the run. Iowa's tougher against the pass. Mm-hmm. So that's the 2 different defensive what's the word I'm looking for? The defensive configurations that we're looking at here. Yeah. Remarkably, and this is kind of a surprise for somebody that has followed Penn State for a long time. That the Penn State offense this season has really been relying heavily on the arm of Sean Clifford. That's not a traditional, you normally see a much more balanced offense coming out of Happy Valley. And this year they are definitely a passing offense to the tune of 305 yards per game passing, which is a big deal. And you're going up against an Iowa defense that actually is pretty good at stopping. They've got a great secondary. So you're in an interesting spot if you're a Penn State fan like I am, where it's time to start looking at your running backs. And okay, so Journey Brown, this is your moment. And this is a great story. So Journey Brown is a sophomore who hails from Meadville, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I know where that is.
Yeah, which actually is my kind of hometown.
Halfway between Erie and Pittsburgh. That's a line from my Fish song. Sorry.
Yes, but it's not quite. It's a little further north than halfway.
A little bit.
Yeah, Mercer's kind of halfway, but whatever. So Penn State fans have really kind of taken on to this kid. He's really had a couple of really nice games over the last couple of weeks. The fan base is behind him. And so now it's time to see if he's ready to take the next step and hit the big time games. He hasn't really had that kind of a test. He was kind of in rotation in some of the earlier tests earlier this year, but now he's the guy. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how he handles this. And I said this when we were talking about Ohio State. Night games in Iowa City make me hella nervous. Like that, it's an
Why would that be?
Yeah, it's an environment thing. It's blackouts and third week in a row talking about a blackout. I don't know if Iowa has called for one, but it wouldn't stun me. Most of their night games are blackouts.
Well, they do that black and gold thing by section, which is actually, it looks spectacular. They get 100% buy-in, and it looks really cool on TV.
Yeah, so it's an equally as intimidating venue as, say, the Shoe at night or Happy Valley Beaver Stadium at night in the whiteout. So this is a big time stage against a legitimate defense that's going to take away your juggernaut offensive weapon. This is a scary game for Nittany Lions. Penn State's putting up more points by far. The Iowa offense couldn't really get much going. That's the one thing that I think we're going to hang our hats on this week is the fact that, after watching Iowa go up against Michigan, Michigan played solid defense, forced Noah Stanley into 3 interceptions, 8 sacks. That's a big deal. We're going to find out what this Penn State defensive line is all about and whether or not they can go after Stanley. The other thing is, remember a couple weeks ago last week actually, when I said, hey, Penn State finally got the slow starts off of its test. This would be another good week to have
to not do that. To not do that.
Because that's how Michigan won the game last week.
Mm-hmm.
They were up 10-0 with 8 minutes to go in the first quarter, and that was all they needed. They relied on their defense.
And that was it.
That was game over. So if Penn State can do what it did against Maryland and get a couple of quick scores early on, that's going to be a key to success in this game. So yeah, Penn State, remember how to do that fast start? Remember I told you to remember that for future weeks? This is the time we need one. This is going to be a really tough game because I'm a Penn State fan. Of course, I'm picking my Nittany Lions to win this game. But I am sitting on my hands on this one on Saturday night. Quite nervous about it. It's going to require the Penn State defense to force a couple turnovers and Journey Brown to have 100 yards rushing.
Okay. The children of the corn do freaky things out there on Saturday nights, and that actually wasn't a night game. It was a 3:30 game, but yeah, Iowa ended Ohio State's playoff hopes 2 seasons ago with just a ugly loss out there. So they will be equally ready for Penn State. But I look at this and like, especially after last weekend, I would have been take that game off the resume, and I would be really, I would feel really comfortable in picking Iowa to win this game. But what I think that put enough doubt in me, especially about Iowa's offense. We talked about we talked about what Iowa had been able to do so far, and at that point, it was they were outplaying Michigan's offense, which may or may not be saying much. They have a senior quarterback who's really playing well until he got a little pressure in Ann Arbor, and I'm not sure where I was going to get enough points to keep up. The defense is one thing. It's better than solid. It's giving it its average of just 8 points a game. That's going to be a challenge for Penn State's offense. But Sean Clifford, I mean, I know this is playing into what the strength of Iowa's defense, but Penn State's got a top 20 passing attack in the country. They're also scoring almost 50 a game. They're not going to get to 50 in this game. But I think they're going to be able to score enough. And Penn State's defense, if you think about where they are statistically, the defenses are pretty much on even footing. So with one defense or one offense being much better than the other, I don't see where Iowa has enough points to come up to be able to hang with Penn State at the end of this game. So I'm again, if not for the Michigan game, I might pick this differently. But I think in this case, Penn State will come out away of Iowa City with a win. And then at 8 p.m. Saturday, the other game you have to watch is number 7 Florida at number 5 LSU. LSU's favored big 13.5 points. What do you think?
Yeah, that line is huge. And that's literally the first note in my notes that I took here is line is too big. Florida's, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Florida's going after its second big win in back-to-back weeks. That's a huge ask, regardless of the conference, regardless of the team. Mm-hmm. Going up against two major opponents like this in back-to-back weeks is a tremendous ask. And add into that the fact that this is a night game in Death Valley. Yeah. We're talking about atmosphere. That's one of the good ones. So Florida's got a lot working against it in this game going in. Kind of has the cards stacked against it. That actually tends to be a role where Florida thrives. They were the home dog last week against Auburn. They won that game, forced Bo Nix to look like a freshman in a couple of cases, make some bad decisions. Yep. Won the game at home. They're going to need that kind of output again this week in Death Valley. The LSU or Ohio State South, as the case may be, behind Joe Burrow, who is effectively run this new spread offense in LSU, which is one of those weird things that you still have to get used to, the fact that LSU runs the spread offense. But I mean, it's looked absolutely spectacular. I mean, they're putting up ridiculous numbers, 571 yards per game, 416 of those in the air. So yes, this is definitely a pass first offense. But here's the interesting thing, heading into this. So LSU has this pass heavy offense, but you look at what Florida did last week against Bo Nix. They held Bo Nix to under 150 yards passing last week. And this is a kid that's been putting up big numbers. And Florida has the number 5 scoring defense in the country. This is by far and away the toughest defense that LSU has faced. That's why this line is absurd. Because LSU has inflated numbers, right? As I wrote here, LSU ain't played nobody in a month, but you could actually go on and say, heck, LSU ain't played nobody all season, and I'm including Texas in that because Texas plays defense optional.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yep. I mean, the Texas defense can't stop anybody, so why should I include them in an inflated offensive numbers, a possibility here, because LSU really hasn't played anybody. I still, after it sounds like I'm going to pick Florida in this game, and I don't think I am. I think I'm still going LSU in this game. But the reason why I'm coaching that back because of how ridiculous that line is. I think this is going to be a tremendously good game. I think Florida can slow down the LSU offense, kind of hang with them. I'm going to trust the hand of Joe Burrow, who is the starter, who knows that offense forward, backwards, and every way in between, as opposed to the backup quarterback in Florida, even though he's played really, really well, even though Kyle Trask has played so incredibly well for Florida, this is a different experience for him. He played well on the road in Kentucky. Kentucky doesn't compare to Death Valley. And so it's going to be a test for the Florida offensive line to give him some protection. I think LSU can win this game, but it's not going to be 13. In fact, I saw one line today, it was 20. It's going to be a single score game, come down to the very wire. I'm envisioning something like an Auburn-Oregon kind of finish. in this game, but I think LSU is going to get the nod at home. I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust the hand of Kyle Trask in the late goings.
Okay. So which quarterback has been the biggest surprise in the SEC so far this season? Is it Bo Nix? No, he looked like a freshman last week. Is it a Kyle Trask? Close, but no, it's been Joe Burrow, who I get to take credit for twice. Because A, he transferred to LSU from Ohio State, and B, he came from Athens, Ohio. I'm wearing this actually for Joe Burrow. I don't know if you can see, it says Ohio. It's one of my OU shirts. There are actually LSU flags popping up around Athens.
Yeah.
In addition to the OU flags, because they are paying attention. He was a solid quarterback a year ago, and by that I mean light years ahead of anything that LSU has had for quite a while.
Yes.
This year he has forced himself at least into discussion about whether he might be better than Tua. Who's the best quarterback in the SEC? You could make an argument if you're just looking at numbers, and that's just shy of 1,900 yards in week 7, 22 touchdowns. You could make an argument that he's the best quarterback in the conference. And clearly, LSU's. It is not surprised that LSU has a great defense. They always have great defenses. They finally have an offense to go with them, and that is because of Joe Burrow and what he's been able to do in the spread that the Tigers are running. The Gators have a pretty good defense too. As we mentioned, only giving up 9 points a game. They held a legit solid offense and Bo Nix to just 13 points a week ago, in part by putting some pressure on the kid and making sure that he played like a freshman. They will need every bit of that defense and more on Saturday, because while Trask has been a huge surprise in his own right, actually that is absolutely a legit point. He is not running an offense to score at more than what would we call Stanford? Plotting
methodical.
Plotting and methodical. It's not quite that bad. It's not. But Florida's defense will slow down LSU some. The over under this game is only 55. This is good old school SEC football. But if the total gets up that high, it is because Joe Burrow is doing his thing in Death Valley. And I think the Tigers win this one. Guys, you can find the Carla and Crappy Show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and now Spotify.
Woo! I thought we were stopping the wooing.
Did I say? I still have it in my notes. I'm sorry. I'll take that out. As well as a variety of other podcasting services. You can also watch us babble, if for some reason you want to do that, on YouTube and our Facebook page. If you dig the show, please rate and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. And as always, come back next week to find out exactly how wrong we were or were not. Yeah. As has been the case recently. Carla, which night game are you watching?
Well, obviously Penn State. Well, it's going to be tricky because I'm the Penn State fan.
You've got your in-laws there from Florida.
And I've got 3 Florida fans. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do here?
So I think probably we'll put them, you were saying multiple TVs are the solution. So we'll probably have the Florida game on the big TV, and then I'll probably have the Penn State game on in the bedroom, which is like literally just around the corner. So they'll be right there. So I'll be able to
you got to move the second TV in the same room. You got to do it all at once.
Either that or maybe I'll go with the iPad. Because I can do the iPad.
That's okay. I mean, if you're the only one watching the Penn State game, that's acceptable.
Yeah, so I might do the iPad and put the earbuds in, but
okay.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Guys, whatever. I have a weekend off. It's Saturday's my birthday, and the Buckeyes were kind enough to not play. So I don't really. There are games that I'll kind of pay attention to, and we'll watch a little bit of the night stuff. But I'm gonna go outside and do something.
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon. So Carla, tell your in-laws. We said hello. Tell them we apologize for our picks of LSU. Tell your husband the same thing, and enjoy your games, both of them, on Saturday nights. Guys, thank you for hanging out with us again. Once again, please be sure to come back next week, and we will be slightly less philosophical, and maybe talk about cartoons even more than we did this time around. I think that would be a better way. That would be more suited for our talents.
Yes,
my talents. I don't want to speak for Carla. For my talents, that's going to be the way to go. Better way to go. Carla, cheers.
Cheers.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you back here.
Bye.